Hello, this is my first video. The quality might be a little low. This is my experience trying to do my first game jam in Godot or game jam in general. So, since I'm not really that good at game development, since I don't really have any prior experience making anything with Godot, most of this game jam was like looking at tutorials and like Googling how to do stuff. So I wanted to give like the idea and how I repurpose some like tutorials or like how which tutorials I found useful. So the Kenny Game Jam this year had the theme of explore. So I decided to just try making a simple roguelike since I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know how to do anything, but I thought it was going to be the most cool to make. So first, what I noticed was something called sprite sheets, and I looked at some videos of how people like went over a sprite sheet, set the horizontal and vertical frames, and proceeded to use a huge number for animating reasons, like going through each frame and keyframing them in animation player and setting them up in animation trees and to make different states. Well, I didn't want to set up states because that would have been a little too complicated for the amount of time I had and also my experience. So I decided to just look at the assets that the Kenny Jam had, and I saw they had access to Rogue RPG characters and tile maps. So I decided to use the character, and I looked at the tile set. I was like, I can't use this for animation. There has to be another way to animate this. So I proceeded to look at how uneven tile maps work, and I discovered that I could use regions and use pixel snap and different snap methods, other snap methods, to try just selecting a region where I wanted to set the horizontal and vertical frames for, and I can make a frame system where like for each part of the character I could set frames for a frame for how I want it to operate, which I found pretty cool. So my idea with this was to try making a character customization at the start. This game jam wasn't just made by me; it was made with like a friend of mine. I said I'd do most of the movement, health, hitboxes, hurt boxes, attacks, enemies. All I wanted him to do was make a starting menu since I didn't know how to do it with frames because so yeah, I left it to him. Well, we'll see what results that led to later on. So this was my first time actually collaborating with another person on GitHub at all. So I had to teach my friend how to use GitHub, and it seemed like he didn't understand how to use branch, but he learned how to use commit and add. So it was good enough with git push force. The code was able to work. So now we're just looking at so yeah, most of this time I spent was legit watching tutorials, applying what I saw in tutorials, and you can see over here I'm watching a tutorial right now how to like do basic movement. Yeah, all you have to do for basic movement in like most game engines like Scratch is like you set the up, down, XY direction and just change that value. Yeah, so I just yoinked some code since I couldn't remember how to do it on Godot since I had some experience using Scratch but not using anything like serious, like only like first grade. So yeah, maybe that's a little bit of experience. So then I went to, after adding the movement of the character, I had to like start customizing it to make sure it works. Then I encountered another problem, which was the fact that I had to add the hitboxes and hurt boxes. When I started reading the Godot documentation and also looking at some videos, apparently a hitbox could be just made with an area 2D in a collision shape, and you could use a signal for when it collides. And you could use layers to make sure that it hits the correct target. Uh, what I learned about Area 2D, like when you collides with something else, the area in Area 2D that you're referring to is actually the other object. So you could use that to like delete the other object. For my case, I just made it so it deleted the enemy since I couldn't be bothered to make a health system for the enemies itself. Uh, I also, for the health bar, I simply just I called a method which lowered its health when it got hit with a hitbox. That hit its player hitbox when it hit the player hitbox. Yeah, I also did not make the code for like the player getting deleted when it ended because I looked at video tutorials and apparently it like causes a bug. So I just made it scene reload. So after I made the hitbox and hurtbox, all I had to do was drag it to each character, set the collision shape for each one, and proceed to set the layers that are unique for each new one. Yeah, so when I was doing this game jam, unlike normal coding, like it felt like the procrastination was a lot heavily reduced. But following the following days, I felt a lot more procrastination since I was exhausted. I plan on just putting the general tutorials that help me in the description, and also like the specific tutorials like as recommendations after, so people could try like using the resources I learned. With I feel that I learned the power of like one of the biggest lessons I learned for this is like animations could be used instead of code. In animations, you could like set properties for things, and that was a really huge innovation because thanks to that innovation, I was able to make a second attack with minimal code and time. Uh, at the very For most of the give context around the Kenny Jam for my time period, around like 10 hours was spent on like personal matters like I couldn't code. Uh, the other Another 8 hours was taken by sleep. And no, I only got 3 hours of sleep, but the remaining time, which was around like 10 hours or 12 hours ish, or maybe no, for 2 days, so 24 hours ish, I was coding, and it was just watching tutorials and understand the concepts and then repurposing it to work in my specific game. So a one-on-one copy doesn't work in most cases, but like if you understand the concept, you should be able to recreate a version that works with your code. Uh, for things basic like player movement, you could just copy and paste it since I don't believe you have to. They're unique. Uh, what if yeah? So mostly like I use Google. Uh, my friend tried using ChatGPT to try coding a chest and making it interactable. It broke the code. It did not work. I had to delete it and fix the code afterwards. Yeah, so ChatGPT doesn't work. You see the tile map that was developed by my friend. He was working on tile maps for like the entire time, and that's all he got working for this game jam. The customization screen sadly did not work, and we only had like 1 hour left, so I don't think we had enough time to make a character customization screen. But we made a start menu, but we it bugged out. So now with this, I started making the generic enemies. I looked at a video called "How to Make Vampire Survivors in like 10 minutes," and that wasn't a tutorial, but it showed me a lot of interesting tools. It showed me the ability to use animation players to like make attacks, and also how you didn't really have to make really health for enemies. You could just make it delete. So that was a creative concept, which allowed me to be, since it had so little code, it was simple for me to understand, and it showed me the ability to make bullets. The bullet part of it was actually helpful for me to make an attack. I stole the idea of using effects. I learned how to use effects from that video. Actually, were probably I shouldn't have, because I should have watched the entire tutorial instead. But it managed to save time enough for me to actually complete making a sword that spins around in the time limit. As you can see right now, I'm trying to make my own custom effect. I can't just copy and paste the effects because I'm using the 2 version instead of 3. So I can't just copy and paste it, but thanks to knowing how that effects exist, I was able to make this. So the rest of it was mostly bug fixing this one move that took me a while. And then after I got this move done, I made another one pretty easily. So originally I was supposed to try making the Cultist, try making a death effect from using shaders. The shader turned it purple, and the corpse that I was intending looked like a Grimace. And when it died, it turned black. So I was like, this looks cooler than the original design. Why don't I just reuse the Grimace? And therefore, that's how I got the pink looking thing to be my special move. Yeah, so the footage after this point was recorded after the game jam. It was because I just forgot to record this part, like, of code. So you can see over here that purple thing. That was originally supposed to be the orc from the RPG image set. I made the shader purple, and so my idea for this was to try making it body, like the bodies that have no clothes. Make a body that spawns after like the cultist dies, and it like changes between all the colors and then disappears in Q freeze. Well, this one did not do that. It ended up showing even when I put it as hidden and show later on, which is kind of weird. And the cultist did not show, and I noticed it looked like a Grimace, so like I kept it. So it looks cool. I managed to make an enemy. I managed to make a death effect, and I haven't yet still made the unique mechanics. So yeah, I still had to rush for the rest of it. So this is just me quickly making a enemy using things from the roguelike and also knowledge from like hitbox and hurtbox that I learned before, and using animations to lessen the workload for me. So I slowly got faster at making stuff. Yeah, I started making a joke that this was going to be a Grimace game now instead of a roguelike, which was kind of funny, but also maybe a way to hide my incompetence of showing my lack of knowledge, but it's funny. So, yeah, we're going to say that it's not my lack of skill, it's going to be totally intentional that I made a Grimace here. Well, to the outside view, it might look intentional since the Grimace is a trend, but it looked like a Grimace, so I'm latching on the trend now. So, yeah, I managed to make an incomplete. For this, I managed to finally like make an actual somewhat complete game, like before the due date. I really didn't turn in the extra features I planned out for all of them. So the customization menu still needed to work on from my friend, since it had some bugs implementing with the rest of the game. But we managed to get the majority of it working, and it was fun talking like while watching tutorials. We were just watching tutorials the entire time, finding resources for each other and helping each other try coding. After I did the game jam, I just decided to I had some recordings of what I did a little bit, so I was like, why don't I try making a video? So I looked up how to use DaVinci Resolve, and I looked at how to use GIMP, and I looked at how to use OBS. I already knew how to use OBS a little bit, but that's around it. Like, I literally just watched some tutorials and managed to make this, and like, I don't know how many hours, but like, still like zero experience. In the future, I plan on trying to make something else other than like a devlog. This is like an incomplete devlog. I might try making something better in the future. My goal is just to make a video every week, and I plan on trying to make a tutorial on how to use Devise, because I struggled on using Devise for trying to use authentication. That's probably going to be what I'm going to do next. I'm going to try like doing it like next week, probably, hopefully. But anyways, making auto loads took me a few times because apparently if you look at auto loads, when you put in a GD file in there, it doesn't just use the GD file's name. It makes another name. You're supposed to call it by that other name. So let's say you make a GD file named global. You don't just call it global.variable. You have to do globals.variable because Godot thinks it turns it into globals, so it makes a nickname for it. So sometimes the nickname is entirely different, and I had to learn it the hard way because I kept on getting errors. Also, for making text, make sure to keep the text in a function and just call that function instead of simply just. Also, try using I use the function process function in order to try updating the score every time. So for my unique mechanic, I thought I made a corpse. What could I use a corpse for? A corpse could be used as a projectile. So I tried making a way to count the amount of corpses I had and using the corpses as a move to attack people. So yeah, you're gonna now see my player. You can see how I made a health bar for him. I added multiple pieces of code in here. I put in his basic movement. I put in updating the health, which I obviously used with signals to lower his health when he gets hit. I also used the globals.kills to update it and also use it when the code works. So it has to be like, you have to have more than 4 kills to use the move, and it subtracts 4 kills when you use the move. So yeah, because it uses 4 bodies, so of course the special move requires 4 bodies to use, but requires 10 to unlock. You can see the shoot code. I made it just a random interval timer. I just decided to copy it alongside the health timer. Probably not good code, but I was too lazy to make another timer. That's probably it for my game jam, like my experience doing it. I'm going to give credit to my friend. You managed to make the tile map, and you managed to make the collisions for the tile map and tile set. So nice, making a huge map. We didn't probably end up using all of it and trying to make it end condition for game and try making a start, which might have not been implemented. But you managed to help me do the hard part, which is the tile map, which I'm not good at making. So thank you. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't have actually had any game. It would just be a blank screen with a character and enemies coming out of nowhere. Other than that, for this channel, I just plan on making videos of random coding content I learn, or like concepts I learn while like teaching myself. And I plan on trying to do some animation content later on, since I like to do some drawing. But mostly it'll be just like me like teaching myself a new concept and like giving like a summary version in a nutshell, like what tutorials are good, how do I actually, what is the concept itself. If I get better, I might actually start seeing if I could directly teach the concept. An example of like a niche concept I know how to do is how to set up Crute on a Chromebook. I was doing that because my Chromebook is so weak, and it has like 32 gigabytes, and I could only use 20 gigabytes to run Linux. So yeah, I could do that if you want. I'm probably gonna do that maybe in the future. But content like that, like niche tutorials, like how to like use a Pixhawk, or how to just make different, like use different tools. And that's probably it. This is my first video. Thank you for watching.